Today in planner lettering, I am going to be talking about lettering in a personal size planner in different styles of planner inserts for this smaller size of planner. A couple of disclaimers. First, my allergies are kicking my ass today, so if I sound extra breathy and extra snarfly, I'm sorry. I'll try my best to edit some of it out, but just in case, this is a warning. This may be a bit of a congested sounding video. And secondly, I'm not going to be talking about paper or the quality of individual brands of inserts. I can do that in a separate video. Some of these, like this one I printed myself from a printable, I'll mention a couple of them, but I'm just going to go over a few different styles. I do not have any so much crafting inserts for this video, and I know a lot of people are interested in that. I'm ordering some, and I'm going to do a specific video on lettering and so much crafting inserts at a later date. But today I'm covering a few different style of inserts that I've seen on the regular. So I'll show you the styles that I'm going to talk about, then I'll go into each one individually. So we have a monthly style, and this is the one where it's like a month on 2 pages and with the little tiny boxes. This specific one is from the Webster's Pages Color Crush, the one I bought last year, so I'm using that one. Then we have 2 different weekly styles, and the only one I don't have is the vertical from So Much Crafting. That's one I'll talk about later, but I have a horizontal style week on 2 pages. This one is a Happy Scrappy insert. And then I have a horizontal week on 1 page. This is also a Happy Scrappy insert. And finally, I have a day on 1 page insert. This is one I printed myself, and it was a printable from Papier My Day on Etsy. So I'm just going to take a brief look at each of these and some ideas for how to letter on each one. In any of these, your best bet for a pen is to pick one with a super fine tip. I have a Pilot G2.38 tip, but any gel pens, like the ones that have a super fine tip like this, these would be your best bet for lettering in these because it'll help you work within the confines of a small space. If you're going to do big lettering that covers a bunch of shit, then, go for a bigger pen. But ultimately, when you're lettering in a personal size planner, you don't have a lot of room to work with. So using a big honkin' pen like a Papermate Flare or something, it's going to take up more space than you have to give. So unless you're willing to devote that much real estate to your lettering, go with a smaller, finer tipped pen. The most difficult insert to letter in a personal planner is going to be your monthly planner. Honestly, I don't even plan on really lettering in my personal planner monthly at all because this is just too fucking small. But if you wanted to, my suggestion would be to stay away from block letters, stay away from huge cursive, go for something simple like if it's a birthday, A, consider abbreviating, and then B, do one of the ones where you just go and add some thickness to the letter so it doesn't take up any extra space. This is going to be a technique you're going to want to use throughout this personal size planner because this is one of the easiest ways to add a little bit of visual interest without taking up extra space. You can do the same thing with here if you want to if you want to do anniversary, consider hyphenating. I don't even know if this is going to fit. We'll find out, won't we? Okay, so I guess you can hyphenate all 3 if you really want to. And I mean, this can look kind of cute. Anniversary if you want to, but breaking words up is going to be a way to get yourself some longer words in there. Okay? My suggestion would be do as little lettering as possible. Now, if you're going to go away for a 3-day weekend, then you could very much add in longer lettering in those, but for one single day, keep it super simple. Otherwise, you're going to wind up fucking it up, and that's no good. Guess we'll work our way down from amount of space. So the next amount of space you have would be on a week on 1 page layout, and you have a little bit more flexibility here. One of the great things you have on this specific layout that you wouldn't have, say, on your day on a page layout, is you have the length. So if you wanted to do, say, an anniversary, you could take up the length of it with your lettering, and that would look pretty sick. You also could, if you're doing I don't know, road trip over 2 days. If you wanted to, you could make it really big because you have a little bit of space. I'm being super sloppy. Anybody who watches my lettering in planner types videos will realize that I'm trying to cover so much material that I don't wind up doing my best lettering. But on the same note, I'm not trying to teach lettering style. I'm just trying to show lettering possibilities. So I'm just going to continue to justify it to myself so that I don't feel guilty for not giving a fuck. Sorry about the snarfliness, like I said. Yay for pollen. So yeah, you have a lot of control with this, but that's only if you're willing to take up a lot of the space. If you're trying to use a lot of this day space to put a bunch of shit, you can keep it narrow, like, I don't know. There are ways to keep it narrow where you leave yourself the rest of the space. On the horizontal style week on 2 pages, you actually have the same kinds of freedom as you have here, except, you know, you have more room to play. So you can do a lot of like, you know, more, this is probably a way you can do a lot of more fun lettering styles, especially if you're not going super fast. And that, I guess, right there is another tip I should give you for any of these personal size inserts. It's important for any style of lettering, but especially when you're working this small. Take your time. Like, think about what you're doing. When you're working in a larger area, you can always take the time to like thicken things up, to adjust them so they don't look so crappy. But when you're working in a smaller area, you kind of need to try and get it right the first time. You can always deal with it later, but honestly, like in a smaller area, there's just too much stress going on with this smallness. That's why I like lettering in bigger planners, because you have more room to experiment and more room to kind of deal with fuck ups. So when you're working in these smaller inserts, take your sweet ass time. When you're working in these bigger week on 2 pages styles, you can also do like, you know, some doodling, like break off some doodling, some like meal plan areas, lots of arrows. You have a little bit more space to add extra doodles. You can doodle in any of these, but with this size, you get a little bit more freedom to doodle, like if you want to doodle the weather. If you want to doodle like, you know, game night, like, you know, if you want to do like cards or something, I don't fucking know. You have more space in a week on 2 pages, especially the horizontal style. In a week on 1 page, a lot of the same principles for the hourly planners come into play, like if you have work. And I would not recommend doing bubble letters unless you feel more comfortable with them, because you will be working in a smaller, more constrained space. So, you know, like you need to be able to trust yourself when you do it. So, but you can do a lot of the arrows pointing down. You can do you know, however you want to do it, like it'll work out well. But just remember that in these smaller inserts, again, keeping things small, but take a lot of those bigger planners and just condense them down. And always bear in mind that when you're working smaller, you want to pick the things you're more comfortable with until you get better. If you're going to do fonts that you're not used to, styles that you're not used to, do them in bigger planners or practice on bigger sheets. It's a lot easier to learn to do them bigger and then reduce the size than it is to learn to do them smaller. You can't get as much detail, you won't feel as comfortable. I hope you enjoyed a few of these tips for the personal size planner. Remember what I said? It's really about control and practice with this size especially. Lettering in the personal size planner is always going to be a little bit more difficult than lettering in something bigger, but I'm sure you're up to the challenge, especially if you're willing to go slowly, take your time, and get the hang of it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you next time.